Imagine a 12-year-old girl, alone in the world, facing the streets as if they were a jungle. Marlene already knew the harshness of the asphalt, but never let it extinguish her honesty. One day, amidst trash bins and indifferent glances, she finds a wallet filled with money. For many, it could have been the answer to hunger or cold. But what this young girl did next not only changed her life, it deeply impacted one of the most respected lawyers in the country. This story goes beyond a simple right or wrong decision. It's about how simple acts, like honesty in a moment of desperation, can be transformative. But the question is, if you were in her shoes, what would you do? Marlene's unexpected gesture invites us to reflect on choices, character, and the power of a chance encounter. Get ready to discover how destiny can take a surprising turn, creating bonds and opportunities where there was once only adversity. Marlene, a 14-year-old girl, lived with her mother Dina in a modest home but was full of hope. However, challenges arose when Dina faced issues with alcoholism, a silent battle that gradually consumed their savings and stability. Their lives were turned upside down when they were evicted, forced to face the streets as their new home. At that moment, Marlene discovered that lacking a roof over her head doesn't strip away dignity but challenges determination. It was there, among alleys and sidewalks, that Marlene's inner strength began to emerge. Living on the streets is never easy, especially for a teenager. The nights were cold, but Dina's warmth, though fragile, remained a refuge. Together, they learned that small acts of kindness could appear in the most unexpected moments, a loaf of bread offered by a stranger or a kind word from another homeless person. Marlene began to notice that security exists even amidst pain and that solidarity has the power to ease life's hardships. The bond between mother and daughter grew stronger despite the adversities. Dina, despite her internal struggles, tried to shield Marlene from everything she could. Once, upon finding an abandoned blanket, Dina didn't hesitate to wrap it around her daughter, even though it meant she'd have nothing for herself. That gesture symbolized something greater. Love has the ability to shine, even in the darkest times. Marlene understood that her mother's sacrifices were a testament to human resilience. Over time, Marlene came to realize that life on the streets was a harsh teacher, yet full of valuable lessons. She learned to appreciate every small victory, like finding a safe spot to spend the night. She also developed a unique sensitivity to understanding the suffering of others. It was as if the shared pain created an invisible bond between them. Gradually, Marlene began dreaming of transforming her reality. There were days, however, when her determination was pushed to its limits. On a rainy afternoon, after an entire day without food, Marlene and Dina sought shelter under a bridge. The hunger and cold were relentless, but in the midst of that scene, Dina found the strength to whisper to her daughter, "Tomorrow will be better." Marlene held onto those words as a promise, even when everything seemed lost. The harsh reality also brought moments of unexpected kindness. On one such day, a man in a suit discreetly left a bag with fruit and water beside where Marlene was sitting. That gesture showed the young girl that, even in a world full of indifference, there were people willing to help. Marlene began to wonder, what if, in the future, she could be that person for someone else? As Marlene watched her mother grow weaker each day, something within her grew stronger, the will to overcome. She knew that escaping their situation would require more than luck. It would demand trust, faith, and determination. The bond with her mother was her anchor, but Marlene felt that a new journey was about to begin. A looming tragedy seemed to approach, and she knew she had to be ready. The loss of Dina was a devastating blow for Marlene, who, still so young, found herself alone in the world. The alcoholism that had shaped her mother's life also took her away too soon, leaving Marlene not only orphaned but carrying the weight of memories filled with both pain and love. It was as if, at that moment, she had to rebuild herself from the fragments that remained. Marlene realized that the promise her mother had whispered, "Tomorrow will be better," now depended solely on her to fulfill. Without her mother, Marlene found support in the most unexpected place, among the homeless community. People who, like her, knew the harsh face of life, offered small acts of kindness that felt like miracles. An elderly woman gave her a piece of bread. A young man drew a smile on the ground to cheer her up. It was as if a shared hardship created a secret community of kindness. Marlene realized that, even in mourning, human support is a powerful force. Determined to honor Dina's memory, Marlene began setting small daily goals. She sought opportunities, exploring every street with keen eyes. One day, she found a newspaper page with an inspiring story about someone who had overcome extreme poverty to become a lawyer. That lit a spark within her. If they could do it, why can't I, she thought. The example showed her that destiny could be rewritten, even starting from nothing. Over time, Marlene discovered an inner strength she didn't know she had. There were nights when the cold felt unbearable and hunger gnawed at her stomach, but Marlene used determination as fuel to keep moving forward. When she felt weak, she would recall Dina's smile and the words of encouragement her mother always used. These memories became her anchors, preventing her from being overwhelmed by despair. Surviving on the streets was a game of strategy and resilience. Marlene began to realize that to thrive, she needed more than endurance, she needed a plan. One day, while observing a group of volunteers distributing soup, she decided to approach them and ask how she could help. Her attitude caught the attention of one volunteer, who, impressed by her determination, gave her some clothes and a notebook to organize her thoughts. That simple gesture became the first step toward something greater. With the notebook in hand, Marlene began recording her thoughts and dreams. She wrote about her mother, the difficult days, and the future she wanted to build. Sometimes, she drew pictures of a house with a garden and a table full of food. Those sketches were more than drawings, they were her vision of hope. She learned that dreaming costs nothing, but planning is the path to achievement. Despite her youth, Marlene began to stand out among the homeless for the strength she exuded. Some people even joked, calling her the most stubborn girl in the square. She smiled because she knew that stubbornness, in this case, was just another word for determination. Deep down, Marlene felt that something was about to happen, as if life was preparing to cross her path with a new opportunity. And she was ready to seize it with all her might. One morning, like so many others, Marlene was rummaging through a dumpster searching for something useful when she noticed a shiny object near a bench. It was an elegant brown leather wallet with golden details. Upon opening it, she found not only money but also documents identifying its owner, Rubens, a renowned lawyer. Despite her need, Marlene knew this wasn't her path. Her mother's teachings on honesty echoed in her mind, and she decided to return the wallet. After hours of asking around, Marlene managed to locate Rubens in a nearby office building. When she handed over the wallet, he was astonished by her actions. "You could have kept the money, but you chose to do the right thing," he said, his face filled with surprise and admiration. That moment was more than just a gesture, it was a turning point for both of them. Rubens saw something rare in Marlene, integrity amidst adversity. Rubens insisted on rewarding her, but Marlene declined. "My mother always said honesty is worth more than money," she replied. He smiled but wasn't ready to let it go. He asked about her story, and Marlene, with a mix of shyness and sincerity, shared her life on the streets and the recent loss of her mother. Her words carried not just pain but also a determination that deeply moved Rubens. The connection between them was instant. Rubens, who had built his career defending large corporations, realized how far removed he had become from life's harsh realities. Remembering his own humble beginnings, he decided he could do more than offer comforting words. "What if I helped you start fresh?" he said, already formulating plans to change Marlene's future. It was as though he saw a reflection of himself in her. That very afternoon, Rubens invited Marlene to lunch at a nearby restaurant. For her, it was a surreal experience. Sitting in a cushioned chair, tasting warm food, and listening to Rubens' stories about his legal cases, Marlene felt, for the first time in a long while, that she could trust someone. "Life won't always be fair, but you can find kindness in the most unexpected places," Rubens said, his tone almost fatherly. Rubens didn't just offer financial help, he proposed a path to rebuild Marlene's life. He encouraged her to study, offering to cover her education expenses. Marlene hesitated, still wary, but Reuben's sincere demeanor convinced her that he genuinely cared. Accepting his help wasn't an easy decision, but Marlene knew this encounter was a gift she couldn't ignore. As Marlene walked back to the shelter where she usually slept, she felt something different: hope. Rubens wasn't just a famous lawyer, he was proof that a single act of kindness could transform lives. The young girl realized that their meeting wasn't a coincidence but the beginning of something much bigger. And so, a bond was formed, paving the way for a future neither of them could have foreseen. Marlene moved into Reuben's house with a heart full of gratitude. It felt strange to be in such a comfortable place after years on the streets. The room he had prepared for her was simple yet cozy, with a soft bed and a lamp that cast a warm glow. It was more than just a roof over her head, it was a symbol of a fresh start. Rubens made sure to remind her, it doesn't matter where you come from, but where you're going. These words echoed in Marlene's mind every night. Rubens took on an almost paternal role, helping Marlene regain her lost confidence. He encouraged her to share her ideas and dreams, something she had never done before. One afternoon, as they talked, Marlene revealed her desire to improve her reading and explore the mysteries of books. The next day, Rubens surprised her with a copy of The Little Prince and said, "Let's start here." Each page opened up a whole new world for her. Living together brought its challenges. Marlene, accustomed to the harshness of street life, struggled to adapt to rules and routines. Once, she almost left the dishes unwashed, a habit that didn't matter on the streets but held importance in Rubens' home. Instead of reprimanding her, Rubens sat down with her and explained the value of small responsibilities. "It's with simple gestures that you build something great," he told her. Marlene began to understand that discipline was an act of love toward herself. Over time, their bond grew stronger. Rubens began to see her as a daughter, and Marlene, though hesitant at first, started to view him as a figure of protection and support. One evening, as they cooked dinner together, Rubens surprised her by saying, "I've been thinking, maybe I could adopt you." Marlene froze for a moment, unable to believe what she had just heard. It was more than an offer, it was a promise of belonging. The idea of adoption brought a new dilemma. Marlene was afraid she wasn't good enough for this new life. Rubens, with his life experience, reassured her. "A true family isn't just about blood ties, it's about love and respect," he explained. With those words, he gave Marlene something she had never had before, the certainty that she was worthy of love and a home. It was as if, finally, the weight of her past began to lift. With Rubens' help, Marlene started attending school. At first, she felt out of place, but each day she learned something new and began to excel. Rubens made a point of following her progress, celebrating every small victory, such as the first essay she wrote on her own. "You have so much potential, Marlene. The world is waiting for you," he said. And for the first time, she believed it. Marlene began planning her future with enthusiasm. Inspired by Rubens, she wanted to give back the kindness she had received. During a casual conversation, she confided her dream of helping people living on the streets, just as she had been helped. Rubens smiled, envisioning the impact Marlene could have. Meanwhile, she felt her purpose taking shape and realized that the support she received was the foundation for something much greater. Marlene dedicated herself to her studies in ways she had never imagined possible. Encouraged by Rubens, she delved into books that expanded her worldview, from classic stories to biographies in the library. Her academic performance drew the attention of her teachers, who saw her as a natural leader. Marlene knew that her time on the streets was the driving force behind her determination. "Studying isn't just about learning, it's about building a future that no one can take away from you," she told herself. After graduating high school, Marlene decided to follow in Rubens' footsteps and study law. Her goal was clear: to defend the most vulnerable, those who, like her, faced daily struggles. During law school, she stood out not only for her intelligence but also for the passion she brought to every mock case she worked on. "Law isn't just about rules, it's about justice for those in need," she often said. This perspective made her beloved by her peers and professors alike. During an internship, Marlene had her first opportunity to defend someone in a vulnerable situation. It was a simple case, a woman facing eviction due to debts. But for Marlene, it reflected her own story. With kindness and empathy, she argued that the woman needed support, not punishment. The judge ruled in the woman's favor, and Marlene felt, for the first time, the impact she could have. This is just the first of many, she thought. Inspired by her journey, Marlene decided to create an organization dedicated to supporting people experiencing homelessness. The project started small, a volunteer group distributing food and clothing. But Marlene's vision was far greater. She wanted to provide education, job training, and a real path for people to rebuild their lives. No one deserves to be defined by the hardest moment of their life, she often said in speeches she began giving to raise funds. Rubens, as always, was her biggest supporter. He helped Marlene structure the organization, teaching her to handle legal and administrative issues. More than that, he became the living proof of how kindness and support could transform lives. Marlene frequently said, "If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here." Rubens, however, always replied, "You're the one who chose to change your life. I just showed you the way." Gradually, Marlene's organization began gaining recognition. Local businesses offered to sponsor training programs, and even prominent figures in the legal world participated in charity events to support the cause. Marlene was adamant about maintaining the values she had learned on the streets: honesty, determination, and love for others. For her, every person who managed to escape homelessness was a personal victory. "Transforming lives isn't a job, it's a mission," she often said. Over time, Marlene realized that her story had inspired more people than she ever imagined. Young individuals facing difficult circumstances began seeking her advice and support. She became a mentor, using her own experiences to show that the impossible can be achieved with determination and the right support. And so, the cycle of transformation that began with Rubens' act of kindness continued to grow, creating a legacy of love and social impact. Marlene's work with the organization brought challenges that tested her patience and resilience. She realized that helping others wouldn't always be straightforward. There were days when obstacles seemed insurmountable. During one fundraising campaign, she faced a flood of criticism for trying to do too much. But Marlene, drawing on the strength she had built during her time on the streets, responded calmly, "Change will never be comfortable, but it will always be necessary." Her words struck a chord with the volunteers and introduced a fresh perspective. One of the most memorable moments came when Marlene reunited with a man who had once shared food with her during her hardest times. He was in line for one of the organization's training courses. Recognizing him, Marlene called him by name and spoke as if they had just seen each other yesterday. The man, visibly emotional, said, "You were the only one who looked at me like a human being." Marlene realized that even the smallest gestures could have a lasting impact. Inspired by stories like his, Marlene began implementing programs to connect former homeless individuals with new participants. The idea was simple: those who had overcome could help those still struggling. She believed deeply in the power of practical inspiration. If they can see what's possible, they'll find the strength to keep going, she explained in her meetings. The results were evident. Each story of success motivated others to strive for the same. Marlene also understood that education was a powerful tool for transformation. She started offering workshops not only on technical skills, but also on self-esteem and mental health. "People need to believe they're worthy of something better before they can change," she often said. During one of these workshops, a young attendee shared that, for the first time, he dreamed of becoming a doctor. Marlene enthusiastically responded, "Be the doctor you wish you'd met." Rubens, always by Marlene's side, admired her ability to face challenges with grace. He often said, "You've already survived the worst. Now, every problem is just a lesson." His unwavering support was a pillar for her, especially on days when the weight of responsibility felt overwhelming. Over time, Marlene learned to delegate and trust her team, understanding that leadership wasn't about doing everything but empowering others to succeed. With each challenge overcome, Marlene grew more confident. She began speaking at schools, businesses, and social events, sharing her story and motivating others to take action. Her message was clear: no one is alone, and the impact of one life can be far greater than we imagine. She encouraged everyone to practice acts of kindness, even small ones, like offering a kind word or donating something they no longer needed. Despite her success, Marlene never lost her humility. She always said that her story was just one example of what could happen when determination and support come together. Yet there was something in her eyes that suggested she knew the challenges weren't over. Life, after all, is a cycle of overcoming, and Marlene was ready for whatever came next. The next chapter of her journey already seemed to be forming on the horizon. Marlene, now a graduate with her organization thriving, began to realize something profound. Her journey wasn't just about overcoming hardships, but about reconnecting people with themselves and their stories. In an interview, when asked about her greatest achievement, she replied without hesitation, seeing people believe again in who they can be. For Marlene, each transformation was living proof that no one is beyond redemption. During a fundraising event, Marlene shared an intimate memory, the moment her mother, Dina, whispered, "Tomorrow will be better." Her words echoed through the room, deeply moving everyone present. "My mother didn't have much, but she gave me something priceless, hope," Marlene said. It was that hope she had committed to spreading, reaching more and more people in vulnerable situations. Every new project felt like a tribute to Dina's memory. Marlene's impact extended far beyond her organization. Young people who participated in her programs followed remarkable paths. One became a lawyer, another opened a restaurant, and a young woman founded a support group for homeless women. Marlene felt that the network she had built not only restored dignity but created leaders who would continue to uplift others. "The cycle of kindness never ends," she often said with a confident smile. In an unexpected moment, Marlene received a letter from a man who had read about her story. He revealed that he was the owner of one of the houses where she and Dina had sheltered on a cold night. "I never knew who you were, but I always wondered how you were doing," the letter read. Marlene replied with gratitude, explaining that that night was one of the few times she and her mother felt safe. The reconnection was a reminder of the invisible impact our actions can have. Rubens, now officially Marlene's adoptive father, was her biggest admirer. He encouraged her to document her story, saying, "People need to know that even the darkest moments can light the way for others." Marlene began writing a book, not as a personal celebration but as a tool to inspire. Each chapter was dedicated to someone who had been helped or inspired along the way. The title? Tomorrow Will Be Better. Meanwhile, Marlene began working on public policies to expand the reach of her mission. She believed that government and society could work together to eradicate homelessness and promote social inclusion. Her ideas garnered support from community leaders and public figures alike. It was as if her determination was contagious, sparking a desire for change in everyone around her. Looking back, Marlene saw her life as a testament that every loss, every pain, and every act of kindness contributes to something greater. But looking forward, she knew her mission was just beginning. "Transformation isn't just mine, it's all of ours," she said. And with that spirit, she continued to inspire, lead, and believe that tomorrow would indeed be better. Marlene's story shows us that even in the toughest situations, our choices and actions can change everything. Now, let me ask you, what are you doing today that could transform your tomorrow? Are you seizing opportunities, no matter how small they seem? Or are fear and doubt holding you back from taking the next step? Think about it. What feels impossible today might just be the beginning of something extraordinary. And have you ever considered how you could impact someone's life, just as Rubens impacted Marlene's? Small acts, like a simple gesture of kindness, can lead to profound change. Why not start today? Look around you, find an opportunity to help someone, and see how it can transform not only their life, but your own as well. If this story touched you in any way, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to keep receiving content like this. Share this message with someone who might need inspiration. Let's work together to build a world where small gestures and bold choices can transform lives. After all, who knows? You could be the next person to give or receive a life-changing act of kindness.